So I wanted to share a little bit from the Bible, actually. I was browsing through there today looking for a nice quote for somebody that they asked for in an email. And I ran across chapter 12 in Romans. I just liked it, actually. And so I thought, hey, let's talk about that. So St. Paul wrote the book of Romans, and it's actually to the Romans, to the church in Rome that Paul had started himself. And about half the New Testament is Paul's letters to the churches that he started around the Mediterranean during his lifetime. And so he was kind of nurturing them after they had started to keep them going. And there was no Bible back then. They had no holy book aside from the Old Testament or the Jewish scriptures at that point. They weren't even called the Old Testament. So they just had the Jewish scriptures and then the teachings of Jesus as people remembered them, as some of the direct disciples had written. And much like we in the order today pass around the writings of the direct disciples and of Ramakrishna and Vivekananda and his works, they were doing very much the same thing in the beginning years of what became the Christian church. So Paul says, he's talking about being a living sacrifice, which is apropos for all of us. This is beautiful. Therefore, I urge you, my brothers and my sisters, in view of God's mercy, there it is, because of God's mercy, because of the love of God that is the motivating force in everything that we do as spiritual seekers, because of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. That means to maintain yourself properly, not just physically, but taking care of that mind also, really being careful of what you put in there. It's that purifying of the heart, purifying of the mind, that what we do with the body, it is the temple of the divine, as we know. So he says, offer your body as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Indeed, this is how we worship. It is by the use of our body. It's like karma yoga squared, to the nth degree. That we are so careful about every word we say, every thought we have, every action we make, that is our true worship, our own existence, the own doing, the actions of our existence. That is our true worship, our true offering to the beloved. He says, this is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world. What is the pattern of this world? To believe in the material as being the real, to take the changing as being the real, to identify with mind and to identify with body, and to find our security and our identity in those two things and their conditions. He says, don't follow this pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Yes, renewing of your mind. That's by chanting the name of God and by making sure that you recognize your difference from body-mind so that you can come from a place of spirit, a place of wholeness, a place of no division, so that your love, which is your nature, can be distributed equally and not by preference, not by aversion, so that it can express the infinity that it represents. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is. Oh, that's a sweet promise. By doing this, by recognizing these truths, that inner sensitivity, that subtle sensitivity to the movement and presence of the divine becomes apparent to you when the mind silences, when the body is under control, and when your knowledge of yourself is holding you in that silent, tranquil space in the temple within your own body, where God indeed dwells and manifests in this world. That through this exercise you can know the will of God. You can know what is dharmic, what is right living, and not be confused by things. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good and pleasing and perfect will. Yes, as I heard Swami Aropeshananda chanting one time, God is everywhere present and always perfect. There's a great peace to be found in that, and that's a great rule of thumb for learning the lessons of life, for being able to figure out what the best is. So that's Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, if you'd like to look it up. The rest of that chapter is quite nice also.